Hello, everyone.
Hey everybody, happy Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting it's the Super Bowl today.
Yeah, game's gonna start pretty soon, I think.
It is. So today, that's okay. The window's open behind us, so we've got this really flowy backdrop behind us today. So today we are talking about looking at property, and with the buyer clients that we work with, you know, some of our clients get fixated on the seller's belongings. And we're going to be chatting about that in today's episode because sometimes what we've noticed is that the client won't necessarily be looking at the house.
Yeah, and it works in two different ways. One of the ways that we see it happen often is that, you know, let's say we go into a house and somebody's living there, you know, and they might have a lot of stuff.
Which is often that people live in their house. So this
Yes.
happens all the time.
I would say this is
very
this
common.
is probably the more often of the two that I'm going to discuss. But yeah, sometimes there's a lot of stuff, and we encounter situations where doing what we do, we're often able to see past the stuff, and we can see the potential in a home. But basically what we see is our clients or the buyers sometimes getting caught up in that they can't see past that, and they see all this stuff around and it's overwhelming to them, and they can't get that vision where, okay, like if I cleared all this out, like it would look, you know, exponentially better.
So that brings us to the point of try not to fixate on the seller and what the seller owns, but think about the house and really why you're there. Because when you take ownership of a property, the seller's belongings are not going to be in there. So the way that it's going to feel when you move in is really a lot different than it's feeling when you're looking at it, you know, when the seller's stuff is all over the place. So in an instant like that, if you're a buyer and you've been really noticing that when you go into properties with a lot of belongings or maybe like some additional clutter, or sometimes our clients really struggle when homes are messier, which sometimes people live a little bit messier of a lifestyle. So we often see our clients really fixating on what's in the house and thinking like, oh, this is really overwhelming and like there's a lot of stuff, and having that type of reaction when the bones of the property may be the perfect fit. So it's kind of just something that John and I see a lot, and we're constantly encouraging our clients, and we'll point out really awesome things within that home that maybe is hard to see around the belongings. But it's just one of the things that we notice often with our buyers.
Yeah. I would honestly say too that if you can get in the practice of looking past that, it can actually work to your advantage, because it's shocking sometimes really how much of a difference, like just clearing out the person's old stuff, you know, throwing a new coat of paint or something, you know, maybe ripping up the carpets and doing new carpets or new flooring. It is amazing how quick a really ugly, messy home can look awesome for really minimal cost too. Like, we're not even talking big ticket items.
Because honestly, when all of that stuff is removed, that's a huge opportunity itself. So if you're able to see past kind of that clutter or maybe a lot of belongings within the house, hey Therese, thanks for watching, you may really be giving yourself an opportunity, because the chances are a lot of other buyers may not be able to be looking past those things. So you may already be in a more advantageous position because you're just open to the possibility that the house might be the right fit. And like John was saying, we've literally had clients who've fallen in love with properties that, you know, have a lot of clutter, have a lot of stuff in them, because our buyer was able to see past it. And upon them moving into that property and getting their own furniture in, we literally have made comments like, oh my goodness, if you were to relist this property with your stuff in it, I feel like they could have gotten $20,000 or $30,000 more. So sometimes you're able to almost get deals on properties too if they don't show that well.
For sure.
Because a lot of other buyers won't be able to look past the way the home currently looks and, you know, the stuff within it. And if you are able to, you'll be in a really, you know, good position compared to your competition.
And then I would say the other kind of the flip side to this is, and again, I would say doesn't happen as common as the situation we just spoke about.
But it does happen sometimes.
Yeah,
this is kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, this is very interesting. We've honestly encountered some situations where the buyer or the client, they actually are not looking at the house and they're looking at the seller's stuff.
And they're falling in love.
And they're falling in love with the seller's stuff, which is interesting, but like you got to keep in mind that you're looking at the house.
And the stuff doesn't
no matter
come
how
with it.
cool or unique, like
or
basically
artistic.
we've seen where we kind of we're almost puzzled as to why they're loving it so much, and we realize that they honestly are just in love with the seller's stuff, and they're not really looking at the house in the big picture.
Because even we've noticed it in discussing requests for repairs, especially, or having conversations about the property itself, where it's almost as if the client hasn't even been to the property. They're not aware of what's actually within the walls of the property in terms of, structural or how the kitchen is laid out or floor plan or maybe some issues within the house that they should have noticed. But instead they're focused and fixated and falling in love emotionally with the seller's belongings, which is a really interesting position to kind of put yourself through. And if you're kind of, home buying right now and that has been your thought process, ooh, I love their stuff. Well, guess what? You get to shift that because the stuff doesn't come with the house. And we just never want a client to feel disappointed when moving into their house when that house no longer has the stuff in it.
Yeah, we want you to love the house.
Yeah, because the house is what you're buying.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of keeping the big picture in mind and the important things. It's the things you can't change. The location of it. The neighbors, stuff like that.
Yeah, how
the
house
neighborhood.
feels. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the stuff you want
and
to
the
keep in mind.
bones too, because a lot of times I would say some sellers, and this is a good point for the sellers to take note of, this is why staging, even if you live there, is so important, because you can truly change the way a house feels or the way that buyers are perceiving your property by making a few small shifts. And this is something that John and I do with every listing appointment that we have. We are really open in giving feedback. We always tell our clients, you don't have to do these things, but we are going to kind of give you some advice as we go throughout the house. And it's not discounting the beauty of your items, because honestly, I love the magic of belongings. And to me, it's so amazing to see a client within their element and how they decorate their house and how they live, because life is beautiful. And I find that to be one of the really fascinating parts of our job. But we will always advise our clients when we're doing listing appointments with them as to what the best practices are. Because while I love, maybe their gallery wall of family photos, and it's amazing to see how absolutely beautiful life has been for this family, maybe there's 50 photos on that wall and it's just a little overwhelming, and it takes away from how open and beautiful the room itself is.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of give our clients that feedback. So just as a seller, put yourself in the buyer's shoes.
Yeah. And just think about those people who aren't going to be able to look past your stuff, basically.
Because there are people who get fixated on it, and it will influence decisions. I was actually just looking at property this week and looked at a really awesome fit in terms of property for what the client was looking for. I would say it checked almost all of the wish list boxes. But every room we went into, she was like, wow, there's a lot of stuff. She was really, it was so hard for her to, and actually it was really hard to even sell that property to her for the seller, because ultimately, she was like, oh, is there heaters in here? And I couldn't tell. There was so much in there. So, think about how your property's showing as a seller, and you'll probably do the buyers who are looking through a pretty big favor.
Yeah, and your wallet.
And your wallet, yes. Think top dollar thoughts. So yeah, hope this message was interesting to you guys. I see that we've got a lot of people on here. Thanks for watching, peeps. Michael, ooh, 2 Michaels out there right now. Al, Brandon, good to see you guys. Thanks for joining in. And yeah, feel free to ask us any questions. We'd love to chat more. And if you're out looking at properties, we'd love to know what you think.
Yeah.
Talk to you guys soon.
Bye, guys.